She embarked on a journey of excellence at the prestigious Anna University in Chennai. Here, she has not only completed B.Tech in Chemical Engineering, but also pursued an MBA, setting the stage for a remarkable academic record. Her brilliance was evident from an early age as she excelled in academics and was renowned as ace debater during her college and school days. But that's not all. She is a well-known television personality. She is a regular presence on the prestigious Sun TV debate show, a highly acclaimed program that airs on important festival. Her eloquence and thought-provoking discussion captivating audience, making her cherished figure in the Tamil television industry. Additionally, she co-hosts the morning breakfast program on the same channel, engaging viewers in 20 minutes of insightful conversation on various topics. Her television appearances have made her a household name with the viewers from Tamil community around the world eagerly waiting to tune in to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, today we celebrate her achievement, her remarkable accomplishments, and look forward to the wisdom she continues to impart to the world. So please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Mrs. Bharathy Basker. So let's give a big round of applause. Over to you, Maya.
I won't need this. Dear dignitaries, friends, and organizers of this great event, thank you very much for making me a part of this, because I'm truly an outsider. I'm not a part of the cybersecurity world at all in terms of managing it. I may be a victim as an individual, as a part of the society, but I'm not a part of the CXO team in any ways. So sorry, I don't have a presentation. I'm just going to talk to you on some of the things that all of us encounter being a part of an organization. I'm told that I have about 40 minutes, but are you okay with that? Is that time frame fine with you? Will you just let me know that you are okay by clapping your hands? I saw that our MC was struggling a lot to get you to clap or let us know that you're fully engaged. So my request is, since I'm not able to see all of you because of these bright lights, do let me know that you are alive and you are kicking by clapping your hands as frequently as possible. You don't have to feel shy about it at all. I'm perfectly okay with that. Thank you. So, thanks to the MC for giving me an introduction. While some of the things are not true, she might have taken it from Wikipedia, and I give the due discount to that. The most important thing is that I'm a banker. And I've been in the banking industry for over 2.5 decades. I've been mostly with operations, heading the consumer operations of a multinational bank. Now I've come out of my professional experience as an operations director, and I'm a part of this conference. When I look back into my days when I was heading operations, or I was part of the bank in various capacities, be it customer service, controls, compliance, branch banking, sales, product, design, marketing, whatever I was. How did we see the CXOs? How, as employees of organizations, were we looking at the individuals or the departments of information security? Let me be honest. We saw them as people who were intruding into our ways of progress. Thanks to the 10 people who clapped to acknowledge. Just like we would see an auditor, right? An auditor is a part of our system. An auditor is there to tell us where are we going wrong, or what are the possible areas of vulnerabilities and risks that exist in our system. Yet, the day-to-day pressures were so high on us that we would always see the auditor with suspicion, as an intrusion, somebody who has come to disrupt our work, our progress, and our path. Believe me, we looked at the CXOs in exactly the same lens. To us, information security was a checklist that has to be ticked. To us, information security is a set of training programs that were mandated upon us, which we would fail each time, because in our organization we had to get 8 questions right out of 10 at least. We would invariably fail. And what do you think we would do? Do you think we would opt for a training so that we are fully prepared to attend the next test? We will call a colleague and check for answers who has already passed. That's exactly the way we were looking at information security. It's not that we were naive. It's not that we were ignorant. We were updated with what is the potential risk. But believe me, ladies and gentlemen, that in our world, we had no time to really understand how is this going to potentially affect our lives. What do you think this was because of? Because typically organizations work in silos. This guy is from information security, she's from marketing, she's from operations, he is from technology, and we had our own challenges in our little worlds that we were not able to see the big picture. So I think as CXOs, as people working in the information security departments in various capacities, you have got lot of challenges and conflicts. I'm here to talk about some of these conflicts, and is there a way to get out of these conflicts? That's why I'm here before you. I'm not going to call myself a motivational speaker like how I was introduced by the MC, because right from the first discussion here, I see that the hackers seem to be more motivated than the persons who are trying to abate the hackers. The incentives, the stakes, the motivation factors seem to be really much higher for the hackers than for the others who are on the other side. So for the purpose of this discussion, kindly assume that I'm not a motivational speaker or a banker, but just consider me as a life coach. I'm just going to talk to you about what conflicts do to us, and is there a way to get out of the conflicts at all? Dear friends, can you raise your hand if you don't have any conflicts in your life at this point of time? Anybody? Anybody who believes that I don't have any conflicts to deal with at this point of time, please raise your hand. I don't see anyone raising hands, including myself, because all of us have conflicts. Everybody has conflicts. Personal conflicts, professional conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, ethical conflicts, conflicts with data, conflicts with the financial situation. All of us have all kinds of conflicts. As CXOs, I could see that you have your own share of extra conflicts. Maybe there are conflicts in the order of who do you really report to as a CXO? Somebody in your organization might be telling you that you must be reporting to the CTO, isn't it? Isn't it obvious? I don't think it's obvious at all. Others may think that why? Maybe a CXO should be reporting to the Chief Risk Officer. There may be a third point of view which would say that you must indeed be reporting to the Chief Data Officer. And some of you might be thinking that I must be reporting to none other than the CEO himself. So the first conflict is, which function, gentlemen and ladies, are you really attached to? That's a conflict by itself. There is a second conflict. You may be reporting to somebody who might actually be telling you that use technology tools to combat security concerns. And in your mind voice, you will be telling yourself, what do? This guy, by making this statement, has made it amply clear that he neither knows technology nor security. Conflict number 2. Conflict number 3. What is the kind of resources that get allocated to you? You're probably 4 to 7% of the technology budget of your company, by and large. Is that enough? What's the right amount to invest? And when you give your recommendations, what does your CFO say? So, what does your CFO think of you in general? Who's this guy who walks into my cabin every quarter asking for more money, more tools, more people? What is he giving back to me? He's neither contributing to the top line nor to the bottom line. You're protecting both, but does your CFO really understand that in all cases? Because, ladies and gentlemen, those are the conflicts that you are dealing with. I'm told that there are only 2 types of companies in this globe. Companies that have been hacked and companies that do not know that they have been hacked. So conflict is a day-to-day event in your lives. Just as individuals, all of us have conflicts. There are personal conflicts. There is a bitter marriage. And there is a very difficult path of a divorce. There are conflicts as a parent. Maybe you have a teenage son who's going and telling his mother that, Mom, how did you choose this guy to marry? Conflicts, isn't it? Big conflict. Because there was only one woman who agreed to marry you. And your son is now questioning her judgment. So big conflicts. There may be conflicts which are as small as a molehill to as big as a mountain. And we come across those in our day-to-day life. So let me share an example of a conflict which can be as small or as big. What is a bigger conflict? It can be a conflict of ethics. You have identified a vulnerability in your system. And what do? You go and report to your boss. And I think that's all that we are expected to do. And why do you upfront that? Because by upfronting, you have made it his problem rather than the problem being only yours. Now it is the problem of the organization. So I just want to kind of stop for a moment here and share with you an anecdote that happened in my life. I had the rare privilege of working with Ajay Banga when he was with City India, the World Bank president, who just declared yesterday that he is the best example of Make in India. He said that I was born in India, I did my schooling in India, I did my college in India, I did my MBA in India, I started my career in India, and hence I am the best example of Make in India. So I had the rare privilege of working in his unit. I'm sure he doesn't remember me. For those of you who have seen this Tamil movie where Vivek says that, I know the Commissioner of Police. And then he says, but the Commissioner doesn't know me. So something like that, right? I know Ajay Banga. He may not remember me because I was several tiers below him in the order of hierarchy. But what I remember well is that Ajay Banga worked with City India and he was stationed at Chennai. He made a brilliant presentation to a visitor from New York, from City, and it was so wonderful that the next thing he heard was the guy saying, what are you doing here? And he moved to City, New York, and as they say, the rest is history. So we held a farewell for Ajay Banga. Banga is a man of few words. He didn't like elaborate farewell speeches. So he said, guys, I don't want anybody telling me that you're all going to miss me because nobody will miss me from tomorrow onwards. And I'm not interested in giving a speech on my leaving, so let's make it a Q&A session. Typically, when a Q&A session is announced with a senior, there is little hesitancy. Who's going to ask the first question? That's why in some of the organizations, they prepare the first 5 questions and give it to selected individuals. So we were not prepared for anything like that in that farewell speech. So I raised my hand. I believe that raising your hand first always make you escape, because as things get more and more tensed, you have already asked your question, so you can be relaxed. So I raised my hand. I asked Mr. Banga, so Ajay, we are on a first name basis company, so I asked him, Ajay, what are the 3 things that you want to tell us as you are leaving City India and moving to City US? He told us 3 things. I don't have time to go through all the 3, but I'm just going to talk about the first thing that he left with us. He said, upfront bad news to your boss. This is the first advice that Ajay Banga gave us. Quite valuable, isn't it? So here is a situation where you as a CISO, you have gone and upfronted bad news to your boss. Your boss looks at you and tells you, are you kidding? The auditors are coming tomorrow and you found this vulnerability today? So let's not talk about it. The auditor is not a CISO professional. He may not find it. Let them finish audit and move on, and then we will try and fix this. This doesn't happen in every organization, but you and I know that this does happen in some organizations at some points of time. If this happens, this is what I call as a conflict of ethics, which is as huge as a mountain. Big conflict, because it's conflict of ethics. Do you listen to your boss, or do you still upfront to your boss's boss? How do you find a solution? So it can be as big. It can be very small also. It can be tiny. So let me give you another anecdote of a conflict that I had to personally manage in my department. So we moved to a new building, and every department was allocated some space. So in our department, we don't need a printer because we don't print anything. Our job was just to attend meetings. Some of you agree with me? Yeah, we were so busy attending meetings that whatever we decided in the meetings, we had no time to implement. So there were meetings all through the day. Since we were busy attending meetings, there was no need for us to print anything. But there was a department adjacent to us, and they had to print tons and tons of papers. The printer was in our space. The printing instructions were given by the guys in the next department. So what happens? You know what happens, right? So people fire paper after paper after paper of printing, and sometimes they don't pick it up. Why? Because they forgot they printed something. So the printer will keep pushing it out and the place will be littered with all papers. And hence, one of the guys in my department, who was kind of doing an admin role, decided to take up the issue. What do you think he would have done? He wrote an email to his counterpart in the next department, which is like 2 feet away. He wrote an email to that person saying, your guys are using the printer, there's litter everywhere, papers everywhere, move the printer today, or otherwise I'll have to escalate the issue. What do you think the other guy would have done? Any guesses? He moved the printer. He printed that email. Good point. He did that. And he also wrote back an email to this guy saying, your guys are taking away the chairs from our conference room constantly. First address that issue and then we'll think about the printer. Sounds familiar, isn't it? Now what do you do? What do you think this guy would have done now? Next step, guys. Do you think he would have taken care of the conference room chairs being confiscated? No. He wrote another email copying his boss and that guy's boss saying why it is more important to keep the place clean rather than taking count of the chairs. What does the other guy do? He copies his boss's boss and he replies. So in a matter of about 3 months, there were 72 people in the chain of emails. So there were guys who got furious about it. What do you think they would have done? They answered all saying, why are we getting copied in this mail? And while doing it, they copied 10 more people. So is this a conflict, guys? It is. What do you do about it? And it's all as small as this. So I decided to do something. I just got the person who wrote the first email about the printer into my room, and I got the other person who was responding also into my room. It was surprising that they were meeting for the first time. So I introduced them to each other. I made them sit, and I said, I give you half an hour on my cabin because I'm going to step out. See if you're able to resolve this. I came back after 45 minutes and the issue was resolved because they found out that they were alumni from the same college. And they indeed found a solution because there was a space which was between the two departments that could accommodate the printer, and they put it there. And it would solve the problem. Why? Because it was closer to the room of the boss. It was closer to the corner suite. So nobody would put papers outside when the corner suite boss is walking in that path. Everybody will be careful. And they also put up some boards in the conference room saying there must be 12 chairs here. So everybody counted before they left the conference rooms. So it took about half an hour to resolve a conflict. So some of you may be thinking that I am really undermining the efficacy of solutioning or undermining the quantum of the conflicts. Yes, I am. All that I am trying to do here is to give you a range of what a conflict could be. It can be as big as an ethical issue, or it could be as small as moving a chair from your department. So what do we do? When there is a conflict in your home, what do you do? When there is a conflict within your own self, what do you do? When there is a conflict at your office, what do you do? The third question is simple, right? Conflicts in home, everybody has their own solution. Conflicts within yourself. Some of you might turn spiritual, some of you might become atheists. You have your own ways of dealing with it. But when there is a conflict at work, all of us do only one thing. What is that? You set up a meeting. And what happens in the meeting? What happens at the end of the meeting? One more meeting is scheduled. You must clap for this gentleman. So when you are new into an organization, you are very scared because you don't know the people. You don't know who's like what, who's aggressive, who's timid, who's calling the shots, who's the boss actually. So it's very easy to understand who's who when you attend a meeting. So when you're in a meeting with a presentation, there are very, very easy tips that most of us know, but sometimes we ignore because we are too much into it. So in a meeting, a person who wants to show that who's fully engaged, what does he do? Can you move to the previous slide, please? He is the guy who's fully engaged. And who's the guy who wants to show that I am the boss here? The guy who says, who's taking the minutes of the meeting here? He's the boss. There may be a conflict there because there is somebody else in the same meeting who's thinking that I am superior to that guy. And how does he establish that? By saying, guys, I have a hard stop in 20 minutes. What's the conclusion? If you're a junior or a middle management officer there in that room and you genuinely found that there is an issue that you want to raise, you are asking about the efficacy of a firewall or the effectiveness of a solution you have implemented. Question is genuine, isn't it? When you ask that question, what do you think the presenter will do invariably? Because you're not the boss there. Just remember that. So when you ask a question which is pertinent, which is important, what do you think the presenter will give you as an answer? Good question. Can we take it offline, please? And in the presentation, if you have observed a real big blunder, which is what usually? Two numbers not talking to each other. Slide 2 doesn't talk to slide 22. And if you were smart enough to observe that, and you asked a question to the presenter, what should you do as a presenter? Good observation. We are addressing this in a subsequent slide. But the subsequent slide never comes. Because by then the presentation will be over. If you're a seasoned guy in this entire setup, what would you say? Thambi tea innu varala. When is the tea time? That's what it means. So I'm a huge fan of Gilbert. So I loved this cartoon where he works very late for a presentation and comes home. And his mom asked him, "Dear, what took you so long?" "I was working on a presentation, Mom, all through the night." And Mom wanted to kind of make him feel at ease by telling him that it's okay, sometimes you work hard. And that's the story of most of our lives, right? So we work late on a presentation and we get home. So here is Gilbert's mother who asked him, "It's okay, at least you will earn more money." Gilbert said, "No, I don't get overtime." So Gilbert's mother said, "That's okay. Even if you don't get money, you at least improve the presentation." Gilbert said, "Not really. I worked on my boss's suggestions which made the presentation much worse than what it was before." So mother has to say something now. What would she say? She says that that's okay. Anyway, you have an opportunity to present this in tomorrow's meeting. Gilbert says, "Actually, no, because the meeting has got cancelled." Now, mother doesn't know what to say. So she says, "It's okay. The meeting will be held some other day. You can use the presentation. You don't have to slog that night." Gilbert says, "Yeah, but you know what? The meeting was scheduled for a project which was abandoned this morning." So Gilbert's mother is now clueless. She says, "Let me summarize it for you. You worked for nothing on a presentation which was made worse by your work. for a meeting that was cancelled, on behalf of a project that was abandoned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our lives. So there are conflicts everywhere. There may be a conflict in every sphere and aspect of our life. It could start right from a data point. Right? So let's take an example at home. Some of you may be having small children. 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. Extremely difficult. You have given them a time to be with the devices. Each day after homework, 2 hours on your device. That's it. So on that day when you were late, or on that day when you were on a call yourself, you have a feeling that your son used the device for about 3.5 hours and not really 2 hours. And you ask him, how long were you on your device? He said, exactly 2 hours, Dad. Not a minute more, not a minute less. I don't think so. Prove me wrong, says your son. How are you going to do that? Because it is your phone that he is using. So how will you prove that his data point is wrong and your data point is right? The same thing can happen in the workspace as well. Because your data is challenged by somebody. You say that the vulnerability or the risk here is about 70%. There is a 70% chance of this occurrence. And your board is asking you to prove that it is indeed 70%. Guys, you are dealing with the biggest problem because you are measuring the unmeasurable. As security information officers, your biggest challenge or conflict is that you are trying to measure which is immeasurable. Let me give you an example. So today, when I got into the lift in the morning, the lift doors were closing, and I saw a mom and a kid just rushing to get into the lift. The lights were dim, just like the lights are dim here. The lights were dim in the lift. I was not able to see the buttons. So what do you think I would have done? Just put my hand. So that I believe the sensors will sense my hand and open. Have I tested that? Do I know that the sensor will work today? Do I know when the last maintenance was done by the hotel to ensure that the sensors work all the time? I still put my hand. What is the chance of the sensor not working? 0.1%? Suppose the sensors didn't work and I was on the 0.1% arena. What do you think would have happened? What do you think would have happened? The mother and the child would have taken steps. And I would have been in the hospital. Right? We are taking chance. And now to prove that this chance is only 0.1% and nothing more than that, how do you convince a person in your organization sitting in the board, maybe CEO, maybe CTO, maybe CRO, that this probably will never be happening in our organization is what that person is thinking on? How do you prove that this may be a probability, but if it happens, what we pay is monumental. So you're actually measuring the immeasurable. That's really the challenge that you have. So you fight with data. There is a conflict of data. What else can be a conflict? There is a conflict of relationship. It can happen in your homes. For some of you here, men, mom and wife, if there is a conflict, what do you do? What do you do? You ask your boss to send you on a tour for a week. That's the best that you could do. Conflict in relationships can really kill you at your workplace. Because inherently, there are conflicts that you pick up with a person. And sometimes, you want to prove your might, and you have raised your voice, or you have picked up the conflict and let it grow. And it could be your misfortune that tomorrow he becomes your boss. So there are conflicts in your performance evaluation. All of us go through performance evaluation? Yes or no? Yes. So typically, There is a forced ranking in some organizations don't have forced ranking. But wherever there is a forced ranking, it's typically a scale of 1 to 5. So let me pick that 5 is the best performance and 1 is the worst performance. So all of us do self-appraisal first. Yes or no? We do. And when we do self-appraisal, what is the rating that we would give ourselves? Of course 5. Of course 5. What else will you give yourself? I worked all through. I've been working days and nights. I've been on a project. And for months and months I was coming home late. One day my son asked his mother, who's this uncle who comes every night? So of course I deserve 5 rating. What does your boss think? What does your boss think? He has given you a rating of 3. Conflict? Yes. So how do you resolve the conflict? You go and check with your boss. Boss, I think you have to give me 5. You really don't have an option. I've done that. I've done this. I've finished that project. I've finished this project. And boss says, yeah. You have a long list. You have written too much in your appraisal sheet. I had no time to read it. But whatever you did never aligned with my goals. So for those of you who have seen this movie of Vadivelu in Tamil, he says, "Nee pudungra aani ellame thevailadani." So this is about Nesamani the contractor, a character in a movie who just wants to get rid of a guy in his team. So he says, go and pluck all the nails. Go and pluck all the unwanted nails. And the guy says, how do I know which is a wanted nail and what is an unwanted nail? So he says, whichever nail you pluck is an unwanted nail. That's exactly what your supervisor might say when there is a conflict of the assessment of your own performance. So the conflicts are everywhere. It's in relationship, it's in data, it's in ethics, and it's all around you. So guys, I'm here with another probably 20 minutes left to tell you, is there a way to deal with it? Yes or no? I'm happy to hear 5 or 6 people saying yes. The others in your minds are probably saying, it's easier said than done. So let me tell you, the first step in conflict resolution is to admit that there is a conflict. If you're in a denial mode, it's never going to get resolved. Believe me, the first step in a conflict resolution is to admit that I have a problem. I have a conflict with my girlfriend. I have a conflict with my daughter. I have a conflict with my brother. I have a conflict with my colleague. I have a conflict with my board. The first step is to acknowledge and admit that I do have a conflict. Second step, always, your conflict is with whoever. The best approach is to go and see that person or have a direct conversation with the person. Possible? Not possible. If you say it is not possible, there could be 2 reasons. One is that he is too high in the hierarchy that he is just not even going to look at me. Or the second is, I am too higher in the hierarchy that I won't even look down upon this guy. Can be only 2 reasons. Yes or no? So if it's the first reason that he's much above me, I'm 3 tiers below him. If you believe so, let me tell you that if you try and approach a super senior, there is a 50% chance that you will be given a slot. Why? Senior leaders are so lonely that they want to talk to people below them. You're always lonely at the top. Don't ever think that he doesn't have enough time for me. They do have the time for you. Of course, it depends on which day you go. It should not be on a day where he was caught in Bangalore traffic for 1.5 hours to travel 5 kilometers. which is like every day for you, but coming from Chennai, I can't appreciate that much. So I would say that when I think that he is okay today, and I approach to have a discussion and get the time and the slot, you must go and have a direct conversation as much as possible. The second, if you think that I am too higher up in the hierarchy, that I have no time to waste with these jerks, believe me that by listening to people who are below you in the hierarchy, you get to know more about your team and your organization than any of the reports that your HR guys are giving you. Believe me. So, listening is an important part of conflict resolution. I'm going to tell you a small story here, the story of Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who was in the concentration camps during World War II. He was a Jew. He was arrested by the Nazi regime. He and his wife and his 3 children were in concentration camps. He saw before his eyes his wife and 3 children die, but he survived. And he came out of the concentration camp and he started practicing psychiatry. There is an incident that he writes about a woman who tried to commit suicide and called Dr. Viktor Frankl in the middle of the night. Of course, those were landline days, and he as a doctor probably had a phone. So the lady calls him and she tells the doctor that, "Doctor, I am going to commit suicide." Viktor Frankl spoke to that lady for the next 50 minutes, giving her various reasons on why she should not commit suicide but choose to live. At the end of the conversation, the lady said, "Doctor, I agree. I will not commit suicide." Dr. Viktor Frankl thought of this as his personal victory. And after a couple of weeks, he met up with the lady and asked this question: "I gave you several reasons for you to live. Which one of those reasons convinced you, ma'am?" And the lady said, "None. None of those reasons." "Then why did you give up the idea of suicide?" "For the first time in life, somebody was talking to me for 50 minutes. So I thought life is worth living." So all that he did was he listened. So in a conflict situation, invariably what happens is that when you have a conflict with a person and you're meeting that person, you go and then you speak for 20 minutes on why you think he's wrong and you're right. Just switch the gears. Let the person talk first. Hear out all the reasons on why he disagrees with you. You may be surprised that you may agree with 1 or 2 of his reasons. Listening is extremely important if you really want to resolve the conflict. In some cases, you want to keep the conflict live. That's your choice. But if you want to keep the conflict live because it makes life more interesting, welcome to the party. You have every right to do that. But if you want the conflict to be resolved, listening is what you have to do. Okay? Now that we are all on the same platform, I have admitted that there is a conflict. I have admitted that I have to listen. The conflict is still there, ma'am. It has not vanished. It has not evaporated. So what do? So I'm going to give you 5 boxes. Your virtual boxes, they're not actual boxes. There are 5 boxes that you carry with you every time you want to resolve a conflict. Your only job in conflict resolution, only job, is to choose the box in which you want to put this conflict into. That's all you have to do. Sound simple? You're not clapping. I'm going to give you 5 boxes. All that you have to do is, whatever be the nature of your conflict, just choose the box in which you want to dump this conflict into. So 5 boxes. I have about 15 minutes, ma'am? 10 minutes? I have 5 minutes. I can't finish in 5 minutes. So I will get the audience to guess about the 5 boxes and leave now, or you have to give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes is okay with you? Okay. The first box is that avoidance. Avoid the conflict. So last T20 match, how many of you remember? India did not win the T20 match. But the most critical match was India-Pakistan match. And we won that match. Do you remember the last over of that match? So we started in a devastated position and Kohli batted like a man who was possessed. And then we were finally at a situation, last over, 16 runs, India needed to win. So in the 5th ball, Dinesh Karthik got out. By then, by 5 balls, Kohli and Dinesh have somehow made up 14 runs. So we had 1 ball and 2 runs required when Dinesh Karthik got out. So Ashwin Ravichandran came in. Ashwin later reflected that day when I walked into the pitch, that was the longest walk of my life. It was such a high pressure situation. 1 ball, 2 runs, and Ashwin had to bat, not Virat Kohli. So Ashwin came, the ball was dropped. Ashwin had the intelligence to see the ball and decide to leave the ball. There is a term in cricket for this. This is called well left. Have you heard about this term? Well left. It's an extremely difficult decision. Why? Because the world is asking you to strike. The entire members of the audience, they are telling you to strike and win just 2 runs. Ashwin, go for it. But Ashwin saw the ball and decided that I've got no business to touch this ball. And he left it. This is called well left because it became a wide. So he got 1 more opportunity. He hit a 4 and India won. Rather than praising Virat Kohli, who scored most of the runs, the entire world was raving about Ashwin for not that strike, but for leaving that ball. So my dear friends, well left is a great concept, not only in cricket, but also in life. There are some conflicts that you should avoid. You don't have to hit every ball. You don't have to play every conflict. You don't have to fight with everybody. It's okay. Avoid certain conflicts. Accept that this man is too big for me, or this woman is too big in the career ladder for me to fight with. Avoid the conflict. It's okay. Sometimes when you eat your ego, it pays you in the long run. So the first box is avoidance. Avoid a conflict. And most prudent men avoid conflicts with their wives. Why? Because they can never win. So avoid. The second box is compromise. What do I mean by compromise? So there is a conflict situation. You have come face to face with the person with whom you are having the conflict. You and he wants a solution set. Both of you are not going to get it in full. You will probably end up agreeing to give up some of your demands, and the other person will probably agree to give up some of his demands. So you come to a point of compromise. Some conflicts will have to be resolved through a compromise. So let me give you an example from Mahabharata. When Krishna went as a peacemaker between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and Duryodhana said that I will never give the kingdom back to Pandavas. Krishna said, give them 5 villages. He actually went asking for an entire country, Indraprastha. But he came to a point when he said, just give them 5 villages for them to set their foot in. This is compromise. Had Duryodhana agreed for it, Pandavas would have settled in for that and the great war would have been avoided. So was Krishna right in compromising what he originally went for? Of course he was right. When you think of a larger good for your family, for yourself, for your organization, sometimes the conflicts will have to end by you compromising. That's the second box. The third box is what we are all very familiar with. compete. Just go for it. Aggression. Fight till you drop down dead. So what will happen? If you take a conflict to that point, you may be fired or you may be promoted. Only two options. If you are ready, then just go for it. Sometimes we are driven to a point where we have to compete. When you compete, what is most critical for you is your communication. When you have decided to compete, your tone must be assertive. When you speak, others will have to listen. So you go to your CEO who has been dodging the decision of investment for an information security procedure that you want to install. So you have come to a point where either it is done or it's not done. So you have to compete. Tell your CEO that I have given you a golden solution, silver solution, bronze solution. The golden solution needs so much of investment, it avoids risk by 50%. Silver solution needs so much of investment, avoids risk by 30%. The bronze solution involves so much of investment, avoids risk by 10%. What do you want? Choose now. And if the CEO says, let's decide in tomorrow's meeting, you must be assertive to say that we decide now, or there may be a vulnerability today. So that is a conflict resolution methodology. Yes, sometimes you have to compete, but choose your battles. Choose your battles. Sometimes you have to give up small wars because you want to win the battle. If you take this aggression position in every battle, then you are going to be stamped as a person who never gives in. And you probably will never get promoted to the next rank. So, this is one box. The next box is collaborate, which is what is recommended by everybody. Collaborate and find a solution which is suitable for all. When you collaborate, it's very important with who do you collaborate. Sometimes you don't have to play all the balls yourself. In snooker, when you want a particular ball to get into the pit, you don't hit that ball. You hit some other ball which will go and hit that ball and put it in the pit. So when you collaborate with the right persons so that you are not playing it yourself, you are making somebody do it for you. The last box is accommodate. Accommodating is different from avoidance. Avoidance is you don't face the conflict at all. When you accommodate, you face the conflict, but you accommodate the other person. So I'm just going to give you a short story for this. In a jungle, there was a big fight between a tiger and a donkey. The fight went on and on and on for 3 days. Conflict. The conflict was about a small fact. The donkey said that the grass is blue in color. The tiger said that the grass is green in color. Is this a conflict? Yes, there is, because they have been fighting for 3 days. Finally, they went for mediation to the boss, who's king of the jungle, which is the lion. They both went to the boss, and as they were approaching the boss, the donkey shouted from here, "Your Majesty, the tiger is wasting my time by fighting with me, by saying that the grass is green in color, but I am saying it's blue in color." The king from his throne said, "I agree that the grass is blue in color." So the donkey was happy, and it said, "Majesty, please punish the tiger." The lion said, "I am punishing the tiger with 1 week of silence." The donkey was happy, he left the scene. The tiger asked the lion, "Your Majesty, may I ask one question?" The lion said, "Yes, please ask." "What is the color of the grass?" Lion said, "Of course it is green." "Your Majesty, that's what I have been saying, and you punished me?" The king said, "The punishment was not for the color of grass you mentioned. The punishment is because a mighty creature like you is wasting time fighting with a donkey. That is why you are punished. Over and above that, you brought the matter to me for mediation, thereby wasting my time too." So my friends, the fifth basket for conflict resolution is accommodate. There will be people who irritate you. Accommodate them in your life. You will never be able to win, because when ignorance screams, intelligence keeps quiet. Not because intelligence can't fight, but because your time is too precious to be wasted with people who are ignorant. So, when you have a conflict, acknowledge the conflict. Listen to the other party. Try to have a direct conversation. Then decide which box you want to put in this conflict. Do you want to avoid it? Do you want a compromise solution? Do you want to compete and achieve the best? Do you want to collaborate, or do you want to accommodate? Once you have taken a decision and boxed into the respective box, then your solution will follow. So life is about handling conflicts. I'm just going to end with a quote from Thomas Cram, who said that the quality of our lives does not depend on whether you have a conflict or not, but it depends on the way you resolve it. So, as individuals, as colleagues, as CXOs, conflicts are bound to be there, but just decide where do you want to box in, and you will be able to win the conflict. Thank you very much for the opportunity.